Good day, everyone. This is your host, John, with Tommy's Top Picks. Today to give you a nice little market update. Lots of interesting news in the past week or so. A little bit later than usual in the week, but we'll get it done. Today we'll be opening a Tales of Aria first edition box here. And we'll just go ahead and jump into the market update from here. Hope you enjoy the content. Alright, let's jump into the market update. Quite a bit to talk about as we approach Halloween. Want to go over a little bit of what happened at Calling Cincinnati, some of the strategies we saw, but then on the market front, there's a lot going on actually. A lot of price volatility and a little bit of fear setting into the market, which I think is, an interesting thing, and I'll dig into that a little bit. Then we'll talk about the latest from Magic and Rudy and what's going on there, and even touch a little bit on the MetaZoo craze that's happening. I don't follow it very closely, but I've heard a few things, so I'll just share the rumors. So starting with the Calling, very interesting results this time. After Prism winning the last two major events, she fell to 8th place, so that's it's interesting. It looks like people have figured out a little bit of a way to work around her. I did take a look at the deck itself and found that it wasn't like the other two. The other two were hybrid decks, able to go aura or hard aggressive with the heralds and whatnot. This deck, I think, was primarily focused on just the one side. I believe it was the aura side, but I honestly don't remember now that I'm thinking about it. Point being that it chose to go heavy in one side and did not seem to have flexibility. Now, I am nowhere near the level of any player that made it to the top 8, so there may be strategy there I just did not understand or pick up on. So I don't want to act like I'm criticizing someone that knows a heck of a lot more about the game and playing Prism than I do. But it was just a different type of build. The other two were very clearly the dual-faceted Prisms. This one, I didn't see that in the deck. And making it to 8th place is not that incredibly bad. Like the way the rankings work, there's, I think it's 4 8th place. Is that right? 4 8th place, 2 4th place, and then 2nd and 1st. I believe that's right. That's how the rankings seem to go at the end. So 8th place is tied with 4 other players. So it's very clearly a ranked level. So obviously way better than anything I would do. So like I said, maybe there's a strategy there I just didn't understand. But it was interesting to see that Prism did not come out at first place this time after the previous two. Bravo moved up the chain, caught first place at the entire Cincinnati constructed, and Chain came back for a 2nd place position, which is phenomenal, because everyone was worried Chain was dead. Well, clearly Chain is not dead. Chain is still alive and viable. It's just the meta has become far more healthy, which I love personally. I think this is a great thing for the market. It's a great thing for the game as a whole, and it will be very positive overall as we get to Nationals and see kind of what comes out of it, for the overall value of the different cards. I mean, if everything's concentrated on one hero, then that hero's core equipment and whatnot will go up a lot, while the other ones suffer, and that's just not what we want to see. We want to see a healthy market overall, in my opinion. So that's kind of the results of the Cincinnati Calling. I believe Florida's coming up here in is it next week, I believe. I think I had it backwards in my last one. It's Cincinnati then Florida. I think I was saying Florida then Cincinnati, but and then we have Nationals in the UK. That might be this weekend, and then I believe the US is shortly after that. I'll have to check on the schedule for that. But each of these, it lends value and strength to certain cards. It increases the the interest in certain heroes. Clearly the meta is very flexible right now. No one has anything solved, which is great. That means there's a lot of room for variation and changes, and it just makes the game a lot more fun. You can kind of root for your favorite heroes and explore different ones, etc. I did that specifically. Lexi had 2 places. I think both were in 8th place in this one, or maybe one was 4th, or maybe they were both 4th. I can't remember. It's somewhere in the middle. But, that encouraged me or got me excited about her. I was interested in the archers to begin with, but they seem hard. Lexi doing so well encouraged me to go ahead and build a Lexi deck, so I have that done. You'll probably see some videos of me playing that soon. I also went ahead and built a Bravo. I was actually working on that before this calling, but this just made me more interested in getting it done. And Briar as well, who also did place in this one, which is it's nice to see the new heroes, placing. You don't see it right away because people have to figure out how the mechanics work and everything, but it's good that within 2 or 3 callings they're all showing up except for Old Him, which I imagine we'll get there eventually. It might take until the new set comes out before he beats out Bravo. Bravo just is a guardian, has access to all the same cards for the most part. And a few specialization cards that are really helpful. So that's that on the calling results. There were a few announcements. We'll talk about that in a second. But before we do that, I just want to dig into some of the stuff that I've heard about the box prices and what's going on there. So the first is Tales of Aria is hitting the shelves now. It's already doing it in Europe and I think New Zealand and those areas. It should be hitting the shelves, and I've seen images of it like on shelves, so it's literally in stores right now. I want to say the date expected in the U.S. is I think the 12th or 13th of November, somewhere around there. So it should be in the U.S. Unlimited Tales of Aria, which is an interesting shakeup. A lot of people are concerned because Tales of Aria prices are already low, and if you add in Unlimited, it's going to drive prices down on things like Fabled. Again, it's kind of a player-centric market. We're looking at prices reacting based on playability, usefulness, and what people want to be involved with, which is why I go over results in callings, because they influence what people want to play and that thus influence the prices. I mean, if it's a player-driven market, then you have to consider these factors. I'm actually not too worried about it overall. There's a lot of fear, and we'll talk a little bit more about this towards the end here, but there's a lot of fear going on regarding the supply of all of these products, Tails and Monarch. We'll get into the Monarch thing in a second. There's just a lot going on there. But as far as Tails go, it's good. It's good that it's affordable. It's accessible. I think it's bad for shops, and that is a bad situation and unfortunate. I hope LSS does something to correct that. One of the things I've heard is that, and this isn't a rumor from LSS, this is like a desire of game stores, is that, give them cold foils, give them promo items, things that attract players to the stores so that they can sell. Right now, it seems they're favoring kind of the big box channel fireballs and the like, which is hurting the little guys. And frankly, that's against the ethos that they declared in the beginning. And if that continues to go on, you're not going to have a lot of places to play and pick up the game and learn about it. It's going to go all online, and it's going to be a very different game than what they said they wanted. So that's a bit concerning. I don't think it will affect anything like the competitiveness. I don't think it will affect anything like the overall game, because at the end of the day, it is spreading, it is growing, it is going to go through these turbulent times. Turbulent times mean you have an opportunity. Oh, look at this pulse of Candlehold. Great. It means you have the opportunity to take advantage of the markets and the fluctuations and the variations. And there's a lot to that right now. And I'm personally excited, but I've played some very volatile markets. I think the people that are not used to this sort of thing are scared. And I get it. And it's normal. It's very normal, actually. It's so normal that it's something you kind of want to take advantage of if you want to invest and be an investor. Not necessarily always in flesh and blood particularly, but across the board in all sorts of markets. When there's fear, when there's a lot of uncertainty, when everyone is concerned and prices start getting shaky, that's your time to pounce. You're going to find your best discounts and deals here. And that's what I am personally going to be pursuing over the next few weeks. Basically, because everyone's concerned about these factors, it creates a great opportunity to grab some of the stuff that would be harder to pick up. I mean, the fact that the first edition super rares, legendaries, etc. haven't been selling, that's great. That means the market's going to cool off, prices will come down, and they'll be accessible. Same with any of the first edition boxes. I sure hope, I would love to be able to get my hands on some WTR and Arcane first edition for a good discount price. I mean, the prices have already come down quite a bit, but even further, that would be fantastic. I would happily grab those up with no problem and put them on my shelf, and wait for them to be, more interesting to people, because I think the game is solid. As long as the game continues to be fun and people continue to play it and they continue to support these sort of events that lead to kind of superstars of the game, you're going to have people interested in it. And so eventually the value will get there. It will take some time, though. It does take patience. Don't get me wrong. It's not like a quick flip. It's not tomorrow, and it's not next week, and it's probably not even next year. But that's okay. I am patient, and I'm used to that sort of thing. So let's jump into the announcements. At the calling, they made a couple of announcements that are pretty interesting, and then the website updated. The first and foremost is the supplementary set is coming out Q1 of next year. This will be similar to Crucible of War. I actually need to check to see if they said it's going to come in 3 waves like they did with Crucible or not. I don't think they did. Essentially, they said it would support all the heroes, and I believe it was the classes they were referencing, not the specific heroes, obviously, because that would be a little weird to support the individual heroes. But we'll see. And so, with that in mind, that means it helps balance out a lot of the things. Probably enhances some of the least popular heroes. Maybe adds some synergies to the light and the dark and the ice and the whatever. Or maybe adds access to those for the older heroes, which would be really cool in my opinion, because then you could use like your lightning cards with, Visari or something if there was maybe a piece of equipment that made you a lightning whatever or something. There might be a way to do something like that, which would really open up the dynamics of the game. I don't know. I don't want to speculate and pretend that's exactly what it will be, but the fact that they're saying it will, help all the classes is interesting. It could be as simple as a lot of generic equipment, like your tunic, that's just useful across the board, reprinted, which would be good for the prices to come down for accessibility, and things of that nature. It could just be as simple as that. We don't really know what it means, but I am excited for it. I think it will change the dynamic of the game, and it's only in January, so it's not far away, which is fun. The next announcement was there will be a mystery set. Also, no, this one was Q2 of 2022. The mystery set is being speculated that it will be PvE. I think James White in some interview mentioned something about PvE some time ago, and people are saying this is probably it. That could also be good for growing the game because, there's still COVID lockdowns and whatnot in various locations, and so being able to play and practice against kind of a AI enemy would be useful for a lot of people to learn the complex lines of play and various things like that, learn your heroes, etc. Might also be a good way to draw people into stores. The owner plays the enemy deck, if you will, and everyone fights them, something like that, boss fight type thing, mechanic. That could be cool. I'm excited for it. I like anything that expands the game and grows it. The last version of this came with crew, so it makes sense to be in the supplemental set, and that was the arena battle or whatever, where it's everyone versus everyone. There wasn't a lot of support for it, but it was also kind of in the middle of COVID, so it's kind of hard to encourage everyone to get together in large groups in the middle of a pandemic. So that's kind of understandable why that went quiet and wasn't that big of a hit. I hope this one's a little bit more and more interesting. There's speculation whether it will be a set or just a product, like an enemy deck, versus, a box that you open, kind of like a crew or something like that. The fact that it's coming so quickly with the other set, because that is the third announcement, the next full set, if you will, is Q2 of 22. So the same quarter as this set, makes me think that it's a minor product by comparison. With the printing issues across all TCGs and collectible card games, Basically, it'd be surprising if it was something that was like a full run of its own, similar to like a crew or something like that. But we'll see. I mean, those are the three announcements. Pretty exciting. I will say there's already been a leak of one of the cards from the supplemental set. It was by accident. The guys over at Arsenal Pass somehow have access to these. They're definitely some of the top players. But they had it in one of their decks when they were just doing a battle like they do over there. You can see it on their YouTube channel. It was a blue Crippling Crush, which I guess isn't in existence. I didn't even realize that, honestly. So that could be the type of stuff it is, going back to cards that are very like cornerstone and just giving them different pitch values. That could change the dynamics of the game. That could be interesting too. And then obviously everyone is really hoping and fingers crossed that there are reprints of the cornerstone cards such as Command and Conquer and Art of War and E-Strike, because those cards have just gotten really expensive and they are cornerstone to so many of the more competitive decks. So hopefully that's what's in the extension set. We'll see. And then the other two announcements, the mystery set and the Q2 draftable product, is pretty interesting. I think the first half of next year is going to be exciting for the game. So that has me excited for what's coming and what the markets will do. All right, let's do it. Let's dive in. Let's talk about the bummer stuff. So, Monarch. Monarch is getting its butt kicked, first edition. There's some very strange activity that has happened, and it has really shaken the markets, really concerned the LGSs, and rightfully so. So, first edition is supposed to kind of be your premier set. Obviously, when Monarch came out, boxes were selling for ridiculous prices, $600 a box and whatnot. Pre-orders were insane. So there was a lot of hype and excitement, and since then the prices have cooled, which is not unexpected, and it's just unfortunate that the market has reacted the way it has, but it is what happens. But the big news, or the big, I guess, item that everyone's talking about is Team Covenant. They released a one-day sale, 24-hour sale. $800 for a case of Monarch First Edition. Now, 24-hour sale to liquidate a large holding that they've been holding on to for 6 months. And let's be clear here. Team Covenant's considered one of the better actors in the market. They don't do scammy stuff. They don't do things that are under map. Like they have been good actors in this market the whole time. So everyone generally trusts them. So you have to assume that this is with good intention, and the idea, or I suppose what was announced, was it was returns and canceled pre-orders, which, with the prices, how they fluctuate, everything, that's somewhat understandable. Turns out it was 1,000 plus boxes of Monarch First Edition they've held on to this whole time, and and after this 24-hour sale, they still didn't sell out, even at this price that is well below what's going elsewhere. Right now, TCG Player was like, at this time, it was like $260, $270 for a box. eBay, same sort of area. And they're selling it for $200, and you can't sell 1,000. Can't sell 1,000 cases. So that's bad at $200 a box. So that means that the market acceptable value, or the value that brings the demand, is below 200. If you can't move that many, then really the price is lower. After the 24-hour sale, they did not sell out, so they opened it up again, and as of yesterday, they're still available. I actually bought a case at 200 because I thought it was I'm not too worried about the short-term dips and whatnot. And I had been waiting to get a case anyways for a while. So I just went ahead and grabbed one. But according to Louis from Kitchen Table TCG, he went into the store and played with it, kept adjusting the amounts until he got to a point where it wouldn't allow him to. And he said they still, this was after the 24-hour sale, had over 500 boxes, 570 or something like that. So they didn't even sell half of that supply at that price, which means the real price has to be lower, like 150, 175, whatever. Add to this a statement and a box opening by Rudy. He did a Monarch opening and talks about the market a little bit, and then he also put a patron message out. Kind of, he does a market update of his own across the board, and he's like, "Yeah, Monarch's not going to 1K anytime soon, so be patient, hold out." Apparently, Monarch. So he gets insider information, so I tend to try to read a little bit between the lines with him, and he seems to be indicating that the supply is excessive. And when you release 1,000 boxes onto the market 6 months later, it is excessive. It is. It's clear. And if we're driving first edition prices down below 200, what does that mean? What does that mean for the collectability of the cards in there? What does it mean for the fables? What does it mean for the equipment? Cold foils. It means they're a dime a dozen. So this might be an Ice Age moment, like Magic the Gathering or what's it called, Allegiances or whatever the other early super common sets were that they just printed to ridiculous levels. Blizzard, nice. It could be that moment, and that's unfortunate. That is unfortunate because what ends up happening is it shakes the confidence of the stores, as we've seen, and they stop carrying the product or they stop ordering as much, and then you have a disbalance in demand and supply, because remember, these supplies are determined long before the printing and the distribution. So long before you actually know your demand. So if demand suddenly dries up for this game, that means the next set will probably be overprinted too. And that's where it gets a little scary, because you can get kind of these downward spirals. Now, all this said, if you think the game is interesting, which I do, you take moments like this and market conditions like this and you jump on them. And the reason why is if you think there's a long-term future, then the product will hold value over time. It will not hold value in the short term. And this is where you jump in, as I was saying before. When there's blood in the streets, which there clearly is, because a lot of these people are liquidating crazy positions at losses, essentially, or very steep discounts, this is when you jump in. You jump in, and this is, again, across all markets. When people are scared, that's when you jump in. When people are greedy, looking at MetaZoo, that's when you get scared. So keep that in mind as the next wave of hype happens with MetaZoo, with Magic, because that's going to have a couple new sets coming up that I imagine will get super hyped in the next year, and then obviously with Flesh and Blood and these supply issues that they're trying to sort out. I'll give them time. They have a lot to sort out. I am a little concerned that it seems like they're not discussing with U.S. Smaller retailers. They're basically just interacting with the larger ones, and it's hurting the smaller ones, so I'm a little concerned about that. But if they sort this stuff out in the next, year or so, we'll give them another year, I'd say, and the game continues to be popular, because that's the one thing that has not changed. The game itself is really fun. People really enjoy it, and the competitive scene is just growing. From what I'm seeing, it's just getting bigger. The Cincinnati was bigger than Dallas. People are very excited about playing the game. But you do have to have the other side. If the market's not there, the long-term value of the cards becomes very little, and it starts to hurt the game overall for stores as far as carrying the product like we're seeing. So they got to balance that out. They got to figure that part out, and I think they will. They've done some smart things in the past, so I think they'll get there, but they definitely need the time. And this is weird times. Printing runs and all this stuff. You have to bid up just to be able to get your product printed, because there's so much demand for print space right now, and then logistics of shipping. Mike from MetaZoo was on a podcast just the other day, and he said he had to outbid Apple for air shipping on this product just to get it to the U.S. in time. And that's the Nightfall MetaZoo set. My God. Like, when you're bidding against Apple to move cardboard across the country or the globe, that's insane. I mean, that is nutso. And of course, Apple's having its issues, and everyone is, right? So we're in weird times, but that kind of chaos lends itself to smart investment, and the way to identify smart investment is where people are running away, let it cool, let that fear set in. Don't jump in while everyone's immediately running away, because then you'll just watch your assets dip immediately. But as that starts to happen and become the everyone knows that it's terrible, that's when you grab it and you just sit on it. You let it drop. Even Rudy talks about this. You buy stuff and you let it sit and drop, and you hold it and you hold it, and then it goes back up. It inevitably happens. And the idea is, if you get really good, like you spend 10 years like Rudy just doing this stuff, then you start to recognize that specific, timing is better. I think he was talking about when Magic releases, there's the hype, and you have the high prices, the pre-orders, etc. And then about maybe 3 months later or so, the price is cool because every LGS has them and is trying to get rid of them, so they start dropping the price a little bit. And then maybe another 3 months happen, and it's kind of like near the third wave of releases, and there's just so much product on the market, the prices tend to drop. And you see this with every set. AFR just went through it. It was under $90 a box for a minute there, and now it's back over 109. So it happens with every set. 3 months to 6 month time frame, you get this dip, and he's mastered buying that dip. He screwed that up a few times. He even talked about, I think it was Dominaria, they cut the printing earlier than the other sets, and so he was waiting for the dip and he missed it. And because of that, the prices spiked and he had to buy in at a higher rate. And that's the risk of trying to time it as well as he does. But, he's been doing it a long time. He knows what he's about. He's a smart guy. Anyone like, you or me, who's probably a hobbyist sort of investor, I would say, as the fear sets in, when everyone knows it's a bad idea, that's when you look at it and you keep an eye on prices on the daily, on the weekly. And then you just commit. You say, this is low enough. I saw this price. It was twice as high 3 weeks ago. Let's go ahead and do it. And I'm starting to see that. I'm seeing it in the foils. I'm seeing it in some of the equipment. Some of the stuff obviously spiked with the unlimited out of print thing, but they're starting to cool again. And I will say one thing that isn't is the ARC boxes are at 85 a box now. I think there's speculation that ARC and WTR will go out of print at this next event. And if that's the case, obviously those will jump again. But in the meantime, I'm watching the prices slowly cool off as everyone's having this crisis of confidence around Monarch and blah, 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 blah. I'm not too worried about it. I'm going to buy in. I bought those $200 boxes of Monarch. I'm going to buy some more stuff. As the price is cool, I want to be involved and I want to have it, and I don't mind sitting on it. That's the big thing. If you have the free capital, don't go into debt. Don't chase this stuff to the point where you can't afford it and you're making life decisions over cardboard. That's silly. Don't do that. If you have the spare money and you can afford to wait, this is how you play any market, and the best advice I can give you if you're in a situation where you're not, with a lot of free capital, is just set some aside every month. So if it's $10 a month or, $5 a week, whatever it is, set it aside every month until you get enough of a pool, and then you take 10% of whatever that pool is, and you start playing these games where you're identifying the weak spots in the market and do the research. It takes discipline. It takes a lot of watching and paying attention and recording. I have spreadsheets of all prices of everything that I care about, going back months and months and months and months. And I update them every week religiously in both my inventory of stuff and what is in the market that I'm interested in. And this is across multiple games. So, it takes work, it takes discipline, it takes some sort of organization, but that's essentially what it is. Well, I think that will wrap it up for now. Basically, that's the basis of it. And it looks like it's about time to finish this up now the box is done. But it's a pretty good pool. Let me go ahead and get these prices, and I'll put them up here in a second. And we'll just walk through what we got here. All right, Blizzard for $8.70. Exposed to the elements is $1.10. Snapshot in blue is $1.75. Flash in yellow is $1.10. Channel Thunder Steep is $1.75. Summerwood $1.10. Flash Freeze 125, Explosive Growth 110, Awakening as a foil is 429, and Blossoming Spell was 210. And then of course Pulse of the Candle Hold Cold Foil is $90.71. Total box price is $114.95. Pretty good box, not too bad. Not quite hitting the mark of those the prices unless you got them really cheap, but close enough for my interest. I wanted the cards. I like the cards. As always, I enjoy collecting the game and opening it. Well, that's it for me. If you like the content, go ahead and subscribe, hit the like button, leave a comment if you care about any of the things I said or want to hear more about specific things. Happy to oblige. Until then, have a good one. Bye.